Hi, team. Welcome to the Technology Access and Motivation sort of flex assignment here. Um, so as you kind of go through here, one, I'm guessing you found the video if you're listening to this. The things that we'll kind of go through, a lot of this is gaining access and just very basic functionality. And so getting the tools that you're going to need to be successful in the course and then I'm going to work to motivate you. This will be a unique assignment in that it's not almost all revolving around some sort of tool use. I want to motivate you, and I want to give you options to do so. And you'll see that as it goes through, but talks about just the importance of thinking through kind of the artistic storytelling side of data, which a lot of times, especially if we're in more technical programs, gets overlooked. But we've got to always kind of be thinking, how do we make this relevant to an audience that maybe doesn't love data or doesn't, I don't know, go super deep into the technical aspects or understand those pieces? Because our job is to sell whatever we're selling, make whatever argument we do, and just make their life as easy as possible. In terms of due date, please go through and just make sure you review on your learning management system when this assignment is due and make sure to have it submitted by then. Okay, for the overview. So again, I talked about this, and almost all the assignments that we go through will have some sort of motivation and scenario as we go through. This one's again a little bit harder just because it's getting access to various technologies. But this one is split into two sections. So part one is the technology setup and Tableau introduction. So it's designed again to get you access to the essential software packages, introduce you to Tableau, which I know a lot of you probably already have, but we'll just build upon that and ensure that you're ready for success. In terms of getting access to the required technologies, I have built the one we're going to play around in terms of Excel and Tableau here today. But in terms of before we can even utilize those, I have to make sure you can use them um, and go through it and do this. And so big thing is access to the software. So I don't have it in here to go through every step because if you go to our learning management system, you should see under this tab sort of the technology requirements. I have this thing everywhere. It's in the required materials section at the very bottom. It's also at the very top of the Flex lectures. So whatever you do, go ahead and download this. I don't want to go through there. It walks through everything we'll need in the course. So the Microsoft Suite, you need the most up-to-date version. I walk you through the steps. Same thing with Tableau Public. So you need to both create a profile and access the app, which you're going to prove to me you've done in a little bit. And then the Adobe Creative Suite. I've again also put some Microsoft Power BI stuff. We're not going to leverage this because Macs and PCs have such a different experience. I have other ways that'll help you kind of learn, but I wanted to go through and at least give you these things if in the future you want to kind of do a deeper dive and access the actual app on your computer, regardless of Mac or PCs, because I have the PC stuff here at the top, and then Mac stuff, other kind of options that we go through. Okay, let's jump back here. Make sure you're following the steps once we get into them with Excel and Tableau. If you're weak in Excel, and you'll figure that out pretty quick, on our, again, D2L page, you should see this additional resources where I have some basic Tableau stuff. I have some Adobe stuff, which we'll talk about later. But then I have some tutorials through Excel. And so if I hold control click here, I have lots of different ones here that you can go through and follow. So you shouldn't have any issues with at least possible trainings and stuff of that nature. Okay, so part two, this is again where it's I like to nerd out. I like to hear interesting people talk about data, talk about the importance of visualization. And so I want you to engage with one of your chosen podcasts from a list that I provide. And you're going to answer a very basic set of questions. All right. In terms of required materials, you need to get access to these 4 sets of technologies, which I already talked about in the technology requirement document. And then, so I've already gone through it. Then what you're going to do and what's going to guide you through this tutorial, which is going to be different from a lot of the other ones that we go through, is if you go into D2L and you find our Flex lectures, and then under the first one, so this technology, access, and motivation, there's 3 things. There's this assignment. There's then the outline that I want you to download. So here, and the data. So the outline is going to look something like this. And the highlighting are things that you're going to do for me, right? So we're going to work through a lot of these pieces together as we go through. Then the data that we're going to actually work through is right here. And so I'll try and be consistent with these because I want you to be able to come back and revisit things. So I'll kind of have our to-do list here. So I know where we're going to go, and then I'll insert any like basic commands or comments here. And then we have this data set that looks basically extremely hideous right now, which we'll clean up. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through in terms of last pieces. A lot of you all, if you've already taken a class with me, you know that I like things to look nice. So I've already built this shell. Start by please inserting your name, insert the current date or the due date, entirely up to you. Please get rid of the highlighting. And so mine would be something like, I don't know why that pasted in there, Gray Hunter, and then current date, I'll leave that for now. Again, you can insert that based upon what kind of your due date is. Then the last thing you're going to do, you're going to submit, you're going to update this table of contents. I'll get your feedback on Mac and PC people, but it should be consistent, but should have things kind of broken down. And then in terms of how you're going to do a lot of these things, it's up to you. I will show you a couple tips and tricks, but for us PC people, so this keyboard shortcut has been a little bit shifty on me the last couple bits. So like Windows Shift S, so Windows is typically in the bottom left. So if you hold those together, so mine doesn't work. And this may be a Mac, or this may be a desktop versus a laptop thing, but I use the snipping tool quite a bit. You'll see me kind of leverage this thing over and over, and see it even says Windows logo plus Shift plus S, but it doesn't work for me. Maybe my keyboard's all messed up, but something to use kind of screenshots, because that's initially how you're going to prove that you have things. And so the first piece is, man, if you don't have this already, you need to get it. I need the Microsoft Excel and Word app icons on the computer. Because you're going to need, again, the desktop versions. You cannot leverage the browser versions. And so all I need, and again, I don't care how you get it. You'll kind of see my messy desktop here. And for some of you, maybe this isn't messy. But all I need is just some proof that you have the app, whether it's you search and you take a, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to do, let's see if I can do the snipping tool here. And then I do Excel, or I do no, so it doesn't like that. So if you have it on like these things open, just screenshot this right here. So I know that you have them. Go through right here, paste the image. So Control or Command V. Other ways that you can do it, if you want to put a screenshot of the top up here with Word and Excel, or vice versa, something like that, just some proof that you have the applications. That's all I really care about. All right, and then we'll jump back here into creating the pivot table and things like that to prove that you're following along with the video. In terms of just knocking out, so one, make sure, notice the highlighting is gone. That's for us kind of to do checks and balances. Okay, so for Tableau, we're going to do two things. One, I want an image of the Tableau public icon, and then I want to link to your Tableau public profile. So again, with the snipping tool, I have Tableau desktop and public. For the class, we only need public. So I need something like this. Again, it can be across the bottom. I don't care as long as I know that you have it. And again, we're not going to use the online version because it has limited functionality. We're only going to use a Tableau public account to highlight what we've done. So we're going to highlight this, and then you're going to go into the Word document, and we're going to paste the image. And I'm fine if it looks kind of clunky here. The version may have updated since you're seeing this. It updates all the time. Don't worry about it. Just something to show that you have it installed. And again, all of this is in, getting access to these pieces here. And we'll talk more about this. So go do that piece, and then Tableau public account. I'll just go, so it's pretty easy. You may want to bookmark this for our class or something. I do a simple Tableau public. Hey, and then we're going to sign in. Hopefully it remembers you. Come on. Hey, and so what I want is you to actually go to your icon, go to your profile, and then take this, right, go in, and then you can either paste the URL, make sure it's use the space to hyperlink. If you think that's ugly, right click and just link, and then paste in, do something like that, and then just make sure you get rid of the highlighting, because the highlighting I want all gone. That way I can just get there. Again, I talk about in here a little bit of bonus for you all, because I am trying to get you all to start on the right foot. If you go into here, bonus available for including a professional image and brief description. I will require this later. But if you have this, update your profile picture, it's weird. You have to actually click on it, and then you can upload there. It doesn't have to be like in a suit or anything like that. And then edit your profile. So just add basic things. Whatever program you're in at the University of Arizona is nice. It's cool because you can link things like LinkedIn. Once you put that, you can also do things like display things like hire me, ask me about my visual, and it has an email. Well, it will do that. So then if you save, you'll now see like my LinkedIn stuff is over here. They can click on hire me. Options to ask about things there. So that'll be additional things. We had some issues in the past where like that wasn't working, but if you put like your X account and stuff like that, make sure it's professional. You can do customize the banner if you want to pick backgrounds and stuff. That they're pretty limited, surprisingly in that. Okay, so you'll have those two pieces, and your visual that we later on create here should be included in that on that once we get it. Okay, for Adobe, this is the last set of things you have to access. So again, I have this in the technology, which I'm not sure why I keep closing it. This technology requirements document going through. All I need is some proof that you have, so you can see that I've opened it, but in your search bar, you can either take a snip of the image somewhere where it's on your desktop. I don't think I keep mine on my desktop because I don't use it as much. I do not. I have Acrobat up there, which is what I use a lot. But if you have something like this, so again, I'll bring out the snipping tool, some sort of proof that you have it, whether it's you could take the screenshot of like up here on the top left and go ahead and put it in. So I'll paste that image. I dislike that it's gonna try and put it with my AI tool. If you want to snip something like down here that you have it, that's perfectly fine. Just any kind of, again, proof that I know you have it, and making sure you go through and get rid of the image. It kind of bugs me that these things are on different pages. So if you want, and you don't have to, I would highlight this, go to the paragraph tab and do keep with next, keep lines together. That way it keeps my answers and stuff together. That's a trick that I use. I actually have it embedded in a few places in this document. If you're new to Word, going through and seeing funny things that are going on, you can click this icon and it'll kind of show you various things. You can see random spacing, hard returns, page breaks, and stuff of that nature. For the AI tool that you choose to use, I don't care which one you use. I am gonna highlight it and I want you to use it. I just list it, right? So I kind of go back and forth between Claude, Anthropic, and then Gemini and ChatGPT. They all do different things better. So like Gemini right now is really good with images. I like the more streamlined responses of Claude, Anthropic. ChatGPT is what kind of everyone uses, and it's getting better and better and better and better. And by the time you hear this, it's probably even better. So just list it, whichever ones you want. It doesn't have to be any of these three. It can be other ones. That's perfectly fine. And then just acknowledging the course policy, just that we're going to use it effectively. When we do use it, we're going to cite it and make sure everyone. Let's talk about the data visualization perspective and storytelling. So I have 3 podcasts that have some discussion of statistics, data, storytelling in a unique set of ways that I want you to pick from. So what I would recommend is just go ahead, opening these links. See if I can, they're in the assignment as well. So I want to make sure I'm not picking this up on the wrong spot. These tabs make me anxious, I'll be honest. And so it's up to you, right? So I want you to go ahead, just read through these descriptions. Don't just choose the shortest one. I know that's tempting. A couple of these at the end have like bonus sections that they like interview a reader. Like I know that's in this one. You don't have to listen to that piece. Like that's perfectly fine. Each of these will have a transcript, so you can, if you are someone that needs a transcript, you can read the conversation. It's up to you. So I don't care, but what you have to do is you're going to tell me, okay, which of them did you listen to? So if you listen to the first one, just do me a favor, delete the other 2, and then unhighlight, right? Something like that. Then I think it's always important, especially now in times of COVID times, just to understand when something's published, because things are changing so rapidly, especially if you listen to like podcasts on AI. If you listen to one from 3 years ago, that thing's obsolete. And so always being kind of careful there. So if I were listening to like Make Your Own Luck, that would be this one. And so it's easy, right? July 8th, 2025. So just go in there. So July 2025. I don't need the actual day of it. And then other stuff is listen to like who are the key people involved, right? And it doesn't have to be every single person, but generally the host and then who they're interviewing, or if there's multiple people, and then basic background on them. Do not just put Stephen Dubner here, podcast host. He's also an author. Like the guest that he interviews here, famous poker player that talks about those kind of pieces. Here, Stephen Levitt, Angela Duckworth. Angela Duckworth and Stephen Levitt both are super famous in their fields, in economics and psychology. Same thing. So this one's Steve Levitt and Tim Hartford. So just basic stuff, and a lot of that you can pull from here, or ask ChatGPT to tell you a very basic stuff, or whatever program that you like, just so it's a general thing about the key players. And then what were some of your key findings, takeaway from the episode, both from the perspective of the authors and then your perspective. You can address anything, something like things that you thought they overlooked, or what other things they should look at in the future, or things that you liked or things that you disliked, and why they were important, things that they got incorrect, based upon your very kind of unique experience. And so I want two things here. I'm going to start again motivating your use of the AI tool is I want you to answer this question, in complete sentences, and then enter your text into whatever your AI tool and ask it to rewrite it in a more professional manner. And I want the original, so write the original here, and then I want the edited version here. So just copy paste those things. And again, you don't have to address every one of these pieces. I would say something like, don't write me a book, write me maybe 1 to 2 paragraphs, and I'll put that maybe in the outline. That's how I went ahead and added that requirement. And this may be a little bit harder on this piece because AI loves to be, depending on which one you use, it can be extremely verbose, in terms of what it wants and what it wants to say. So you may have to rein it in with a few prompts. I'm not going to ask for your prompts that you use, but tell it to be concise and effective, and that the maximum is allowed to be is 2 complete paragraphs as you go through, because we want to be efficient, we want to be effective. This isn't a creative writing class as you go through. All right, once you're done, you're going to do 2 things for me, just so I don't forget. You're going to go up here, you're going to update this entire table so that it's accurate, and then you're going to delete the table of contents line, right? Something of that nature. I'm going to put it back in here because I'll try and remember at the end. If you can't click and it update, under, I believe, the references tab, you should be able to do table of contents, top left, update entire table. So it goes through. So just keeping things organized will help us grade, and honestly, it's just clean and professional. Okay, so let's jump into the Excel piece. So we're going to do parts 2, and confirm everything works here. So I'm going to add my my highlighting. And so to do these things, we first have to go through and do these steps. All right, and so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to format the data so it's easily viewable, and for the relevant variables, the units are labeled appropriately. So basic cursor things I'll show you. So you'll see me use this over and over, and then just kind of making things look good. All right, so first thing I'm always going to do with a data set like this is make sure things fit, and this one's actually nice and clean, right? Because if I drag across and then you see my cursor up here, it will change once I'm on the lines. I'll double click just so then what it does is it auto fits to the widest thing in every single piece. And then what I'm going to go, and this is just my personal preference, I like to kind of delineate things, so I like my top one to be consistent. So you can use whatever color you want. I think best practice in data world is white, and then or a light white or grayish, and then that. But I'm at U of A, so I'm going to do white text with the U of A navy blue in the back. Going through there, I'll go back to the financial information. This thing is hideous. I'm sure a lot of you all have clicked and dragged, but again, that's inefficient. So what we want to do is, and this here, a lot of people freak out that it's an error or something of that nature, but that's not the case. It's just the number in here is too big for it to display. So we'll hover across, drag across the columns, double click, and then it should auto fit. Little things like this is right justified versus left justified, that bugs my brain. And so I'll go up here, it's very similar to Word, I'll make sure everything's left justified, things of that nature, and then I'll go through something like this. All right, eventually we're going to consolidate these, but little things that I want to show you. Later on when we're like labeling things, you want things to look as nice as possible. And so if you notice these, generally city, metro areas, state names, state abbreviations, those should be at least have the first piece capitalized, which these do not now, but I do want them to look nicer. So just going to use like very basic commands, hopefully show you this thing can kind of be a word processor as well. But I'm going to create new variables for all 4 of these. So I'm just going to copy go here and paste, so Control or Command C and then Control or Command V. You've got to really get good with your keyboard shortcuts if you're going to work with data. And then for the city, the metro, and the state, I want just the first letter to be capitalized. And so in Excel, you can do that with equals, and then you start typing proper. Oops, proper. And so you could type the whole thing. You could double click. As soon as you type out to where it's the top, you can also just hit tab, and it auto does that. And so I'll do proper with the city. I'll hit enter, and it's the first one. Now it makes it capitalized. You could write that a couple more times, but if I know on this bottom right thing, I know a bunch of you all have probably double clicked down, but before that, I know I want this to be proper, this to be proper, and then I'm going to capitalize both of these. And so at least for these, I can click the bottom right corner, drag across, and then go to the bottom right corner, double click, and it does everything for me. All right, for the actual state short abbreviation, I'm just going to use equals and then it's upper. Oops. This will uppercase everything. So I'll do upper, I'll click, or you can tab, click on the state name or state abbreviation there. I double click down. All right, and I'm trying not to make a bunch of new data. So I'm never going to use this once I have these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the values of these right on top of this to replace it. But you don't want to just go through. You could technically just copy paste, then it messes up this command, but just best practice. I'm going to go ahead and copy, so Control or Command C after I drag across. I'll go here, I'll right click, and then you should see 1, 2, 3. If you're on a Mac, you may have to go to paste values and just do values. Something like that. You can actually do Control Shift V, I think on a PC when you get to here, or paste values, anything like that. And you'll notice when you click in, that command is no longer there. It's over here, but I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to drag across. And I'm just going to, oops, why am I escape? Yes. All right, and that's another key thing in Excel. Your best friend is going to be escape if things kind of go wrong. The last thing I'm going to create is I want to create a variable here where I have city, comma, state, so they're combined. This is easier in Excel. Tableau will do a lot of this for us automatically. But Excel, if we want to work with it together, we've got to combine these things. And so I'm going to combine essentially city and state. And so in here, this is a command called concat, right? Equals concat. You could use concatenate if you want. It always has this warning sign that it's going away. That warning sign has been there for at least 9 years that I've seen. And so I'll do the first one because I think it works a little bit better. And so concat just puts things together. And so I'm going to do city and then comma. And it's tempting to just do state and then hit enter. But then you don't have like, one, it's all together, and then you don't have like the traditional comma in front of it. And so I'm going to double click in. And so I'm going to actually do a quote, and then I'm going to do comma space and then close quotes. We use quotes when we have words or non-numeric items in Excel. And then I'll do a normal comma to split up those three things. So I'm combining this text and then a manual input of comma space, and then with the states. And then if you hit enter, you have something like this, and then you can double click things down. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save often, save often, save often, save often. Please, please, please save often as we go through here. I'll show you one last trick is what if I was given this, but I wanted city in one column, state in the other. You can split these as well. I haven't used the command version. I've seen some students show me this, but I found it's a lot easier because I know that these are all split on a comma. So what I can do is I can click on that column, and then on the data tab up here on the left, you should see this text to columns. All right, so we'll do something like that. This may look a little bit on a Mac or PC, but it's delimited because it's split by a character. If I knew everything was like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 spaces, I could do that. But I can do next. This may cause issues because notice here that I have these commands in here, and you may be looking like that could cause a problem. Let's see if it's going to work on the comma. So what it's going to do here now is it's going to split my command, which causes problems. And so I need to get rid of that command. So I'm actually going to close this. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to right click, paste the values. Okay, and it looks like nothing happened, but when I click in, you can tell that it does. All right, so now I'll re-click on the column, text to columns. It is delimited. Now you'll actually see the words, which makes a lot more sense. And the fact that we already selected comma, it's going to split it. So it shows us that. In terms of best practices, you could already hit enter here, and it's going to leave you with a column of city and leave you with a column of state. If you want to keep the original and then have it split as well, you should go to the next tab and tell it where you want it and have it so it's not going to overlap things. And so it's general format. If we start messing with dates, which we'll do later, it'll be there. But I'm going to say, please put it in this column J as the starting piece. And then when you do finish, right, it gives you both, right? And you don't have to follow this, but I'll show you if I would have done text to columns next and just done finish, what it's going to do is it's going to yell at me and say there's other data there because it's going to override it and then it's going to do okay, but then it splits it. And so if I want to keep the original, so I'll do Control or Command Z as undo, I'll always tell it where I kind of want it. And now we already have that over here, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this because we don't need it as we go through. But I'll save, I'll go to the agenda. We knocked out a little bit of Excel. All right, we're now going to merge the data sets that I'm left with all the information on one sheet. It's a lot easier to build things. All right, so we've already done this as well. Oh, the last thing I thought, let's just make things look a little nicer. So in this tab, growth rate is a percentage, and then revenue is actually in dollars. And so I would go here, home tab. If you just click on the button, it does accounting. A lot of people don't like the 2 decimals or accounting. So you could change that to be currency. If you like the rounding to just show different, it's always included in the background. You can move the decimals so it's 0 spaces. So whatever your preference is there. You cannot, right? What you cannot do for the growth rate is it's tempting to just go up here and say like, well, let's display this as a percent, right? But Excel on the back end thinks a percent should always be between 0 and 100, which in the data should be 0 and 1. And so if you want to display it so it looks nice, what I would do would be something right here. I would insert a column. I would copy this, paste it, and then I'll do percent. And I'll make sure we do that. And then it's just do equals this number divided by 100. All right, then we can double click down, highlight it as a percent, and it actually is 541%, which matches there, just looks cleaner. Note that that full number is back there. If you don't trust me, we'll do a trick that we've been using quite a bit. Copy, right click, paste, and then if you click, notice in the command bar here, you can see those decimals still exist. But it looks a little bit cleaner, it looks a little bit nicer. Other things we don't really need units for because it's all kind of generic stuff. Okay, now let's go ahead and merge the data sets so we can do the pivot table and chart and then jump into Tableau to build those visuals. So to merge data sets, it's up to you, and I'm holding control and scrolling with my mouse ball. That's how I'm going in and out. I highly recommend a mouse. You can also do that manually down here, right, on the bottom right. You should see this kind of zoom feature. I like working with a mouse. I think it's exponentially faster, and it's consistent across Macs and PCs, right? Right click is right click is right click. Whereas if you're using the trackpad, that's not necessarily the case. And so to combine the information, a lot of this is just pick where you want it first. You could create a new sheet and then do them both, but that seems like a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is, I think it makes sense, and I'm going to reformat this, which is maybe a little bit easier to look. Since this seems the smallest, for view purposes, I'm going to put all the other data over here. And so I'll have general company information. Notice that I have unique identifier. You always have to have that to link, and they're in different orders. I can't just copy paste. I could like sort this and then pray that they're all matched and the same, but I don't want to use a whole lot of prayers to supreme deities in worksheets. So let's give them some time off and make sure that we can kind of match things automatically that we know of. And so I know that I don't need company name again, but I am going to need everything else. So I always build a roadmap. So I go across, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to go in, I am going to paste, and then I know exactly what I want. And so I'm going to do some of this for you. I'm going to show you the two different ways, and then I'm going to let you do the rest. And so I think the easiest is XLOOKUP, new command. If you don't have this, that means you don't have the most up-to-date version of the Microsoft Suite. Uninstall what you have, go back to the MIS 561 or the technology requirements document and reinstall it so you have the most recent one. But I'll show you both. So equals XLOOKUP, so XL, just the letters, and then tab or double click, and then lookup value. Okay, so how this thing works, and it's kind of walking us through this. I'm looking up this unique ID, comma, where is it? Well, it's on this sheet in column A. All right, so that's the lookup array here, and then comma. Okay, if you find it, what do you want back? Well, I want the industry back. And you could technically stop there, but these brackets represent like what if other options happen. So I try to fill them out when I think they make sense. I'm going to do comma. If not found, well, what do I want to return? Well, I'm going to put in quotes in/A. You could put not found, no match, whatever you want. I don't really care. All right, comma, match mode. I obviously want it to be an exact match. I don't really want it to be kind of, I'm not even sure what regex match is, but I want it to be exact. So I'm going to type the letter 0. And then comma, the search mode, you can do from top to bottom, bottom to top, other binary kind of searches. We don't need that for this because we know it is unique. So I'm just going to backslash, close parenthesis, I'll hit enter. And hopefully I see, all right, engineering, and then I double click it down. Right, you're going to be tempted to try and start dragging this thing to the right and be like, I'm done, right? You can't do that because a lot of things change. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But for those that like VLOOKUP, it's a it's kind of similar, but I'll show you why I don't like it. So you'll start with equals VLOOKUP. If you like XLOOKUP and you have it, skip this, right? Finish off these and do those kind of pieces. But if you don't have it, you can do VLOOKUP. It starts the same way. Well, okay, what's the lookup value? Well, lookup value is this unique ID, comma. Then it's table array. So for this, you just have to know I need the unique identifier that it's looking for on the left and everything data-wise that I would want back on the right. So I know that's over here, and then it's just from my unique identifiers in column A. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to drag over to the very end. And then I'm going to do comma, and then the column index number. So this is the counting over what column the data is. And I have to always think, does it count column A as 1? And I know that it shouldn't, but I get this thing wrong like 75% of the time, which means it does. So like this is column 1, this is column 2, this is column 3. I want the city, which is in column 4, so I'm legitimately going to type the number 4, and then column, the lookup, I don't know why. Approximate match is the default. It should be exact match, so I'm going to just double click. You can type false if you want, but I'll close that parenthesis, I'll enter, and I'll hope I see a city. Thank goodness that I do. So I double click it down. All right, so this one would be easier. That command would look almost the same. So I could copy in here, go in, paste, and just change this to a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you may think that's faster, um, but, and it works, if you go through and you're smart with Excel and you know what's going on, I would always just write this one time. And then I think about what happens when I drag to the right. Well, anytime you have a letter and a number, when you drag to the right, our letters are going to move one. If you double click or drag down, our numbers are going to count up unless we lock them. And so I know for this here in the command bar, right, when I drag this thing to the right, I do not want the unique identifier to also move. And so what I can do is I can throw a $sign, so shift 4 here. Then I also do not want, let me think as I go through here. I'm in the VLOOKUP, sorry. I want to do it in here. So I'll put my lock with the XLOOKUP. And then in terms of my, where that unique identifier is in that column A, I don't want that to move horizontally either. So I'm going to throw a lock sign. I don't know why you have to do it in front of both letters. In terms of what it returns back, I do want that to move over as I go horizontally, because then I want the things to the right of it. And so if I can lock just the horizontal movement, note I didn't put a $sign in front of the number because right, I want it to move down if I double click, and then this is in column, so it doesn't really matter. So I'll hit enter, and then what I can do, and hopefully this thing works by clicking, dragging all the way across, double clicking down. I think you can't do it when you have, oops, here, bottom right corner, when it's next to things. But then everything is merged over. We have all these, they're guaranteed to match, their ranking, the city, state, all of that. So then I can save, and then I can right click and just do all data, something like that. So then if your computer is slow or something of that nature, you could delete this and go through. Okay, almost all the way done. Pivot tables are pretty easy. I'm going to cheat a little bit and just do copy, just because I'm going to need to figure out what I actually want in this in just a second. So I'll go back to that all data tab. I will do insert pivot table. I will do, and notice that as long as you're clicking the data, it highlights everything. We'll do okay. And then I'm going to right click, rename pivot table. And then a note to myself, so I don't have to keep going back and forth, is I'll just do insert. I do not want a comment. I want a text box, and I'll draw something over here, and then I just paste what I need. And so it looks like I want a pivot table displaying the count, average rank, 3-year growth rate, revenue, workers, and years on the list by industry. And then we're going to choose one outcome to create a simple bar graph displaying what's in the table. Perfect. So I go here. Industry is what I want across the rows. And so I'm going to find industry here. I'm going to drag it down to rows. And then a lot of this is just going through and getting what I want. So if I want to count the number of times I see an industry, I'm just going to take industry again, drag it down to values. All right, so it's counting the number of times here that it sees, and maybe I'll move this down here. Advertising and marketing, energy, education, all those things. So I'll click back in here. What else do I want? Average rank. Okay, so I have the rank. Where's that variable? Here it is, rank. I'll do this. And it starts by summing it. That's just the default in most of these programs. To make it an average, what we're going to do is for PCs, we've got to do drop down value field settings. For Macs, it's just an I, but then we'll do average and we'll do okay. And then a ranking is a whole number. And so what we're going to do is we're going to round it so it makes sense, right? And so we're just going to go into the number tab, go ahead and rank it. All right. There are other things we could do here, like unique ones, but we're not going to go that deep. Then we're going to do the 3-year growth rate. And because I want to display it in a professional manner, I'm going to do the one that we created. So I'll click that one. Again, we want to average because I don't want to add up 453, 435, 34 and compare those. So again, drop down, value field settings, average, do OK. And it looks nice because it rounded it before. Let's see, revenue, workers, and years on list. So we can go a little faster. So I can do revenue, workers, years on list. And then going through, again, we want the average for all of these because, again, we want to compare apples to apples. So a lot of times this is kind of tedious. Value field settings, average, and then some list, value average, do OK. All right, and then again, reasonable rounding. So this one's already rounded because we formatted it earlier. For workers, what is 0.1 of a worker or 0.07? So for these, just again, think about the viewer and that it makes sense. Let's round a whole number. Average years on the list, you may be able to argue a little bit with me on this one. Since the numbers are pretty similar, I'll do like maybe 2 decimals. You could do 1, and that wouldn't kind of bug me or cause any issues in that kind of piece. All right, so here's one table that I want you to have. I'd probably maybe label this in. If you're someone that likes things that are like a little bit cleaner, a little bit maybe just more structure, and you could center things. If you don't like that this table is going to be really big, what you can do is over here on the left, you can make this a little bit larger again between this, and then you can label this as in industry. I will keep it alphabetical for now. I'm just going to label this total. And then little things like I'm going to make this so it's maybe a little bit cleaner, but the text gets cut off. So what I'll do is I'll click on under the Home tab wrap text. And then that way it kind of wraps things around. That way if you start condensing, it'll go through and do that. Just make sure, again, everything is still legible and easy to see in that kind of sense. All right, so what I'll do is I will go ahead, I'm going to copy this table. I will go to our outline. Here's the pivot table that I want. So we're going to right click and I want you to paste it as an image. If you don't see this, go to the Home tab, drop down, and either image or paste special if you're on a Mac. And you should see like PNG. I think I did the wrong one. Paste special, picture, something like that. So it looks exactly. It's hideous. I know the highlighting's behind it. Just go through and do that. No color. All right, pivot chart. This one's up to you. I don't care which one you use, but to make your life easier, instead of building another pivot table, just go ahead, copy this. I'll keep it right next to it so our formatting is pretty similar, and then just get rid of whatever you want. So I'll do maybe average 3 or percent. So I'm going to get rid of rank, in, revenue, workers, years on list. Again, you can do a different one. And then once you have the table displayed the way you want it, under this pivot chart or table analyze up here on the top that now exists, make sure you're clicked in it. You should be able to do pivot chart. And hopefully it's set up as a column graph. If you want a bar chart, so bar charts in Excel are just the horizontal, entirely up to you. I'll do this just because I think it's clean and nice. A couple things with Excel, generally their visuals start off being hideous. If you hold, again, shift, bottom right corner, make sure we're not messing up the aspect ratio, make sure we can see everything. And then let's relabel this, right? So this would be average 3-year growth rate by industry. It should always make sense. I notice it's still not displaying some of these, so I may have to get creative. I'm holding shift. I want them all displayed on here. Total, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. You can click and drag. If you're on a Mac, you're not going to see these gray bars and stuff. That's fine, not a big deal. Then I don't know that it makes a whole lot of sense to have these labeled because generally we want to pull something out of a bar graph. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to click on these stupid grid lines and get rid of them. And then two, I want to order these such that the highest is at the top or vice versa. And so I actually can do that in a couple different ways. It's really a lot harder here in Excel. This is much easier in Tableau. I'm going to save just to be safe. So right click in the numbers and we're going to sort. I like biggest at the top, so we can do largest to smallest. It's up to you. So something like this, it's easy to see. And then I may put like a label on it. For PC people, it's pretty easy. Go right there, chart elements. For Mac people, as long as you're clicked on the chart, it should be under, I believe it's going to be design, add chart elements, and then I don't think we need labels because it's intuitive, especially with our useful title. But we could do our data labels, and then for these, I'm guessing outside the end would probably be the best. And again, these are the top 5,000. I should have spent a little time talking about the data. Top 5,000 growing companies in the U.S. It looks like consumer products and services was the biggest. All right, so then what we'll do is we'll copy, go back to our Word document. We'll have our pivot chart, so we'll right click, paste as an image or a picture. Please don't submit it like this, right? We're going to make sure, right, that again, we're dragging from the corner so that it fits the margins of the page. We can delete this, make sure there's no highlighting. All right, so I'll save this, and then we're almost done. The only thing left that we have to do is Tableau, and we're just going to build a very, very simple thing so I can confirm that you have it. Maybe we'll build this here. But what I need you to do now is we're going to save this. We're going to save the Excel file somewhere where you know it's at, and we're going to launch Tableau. If you need a little break, that's fine. Take it right now. Nice thing about being able to pause, but I will go ahead and launch Tableau. Again, click on it, let it think. It does need to think a little bit as we go through. If you want to go ahead and try and link this to your profile, so you don't have to worry about logging in later, you can go to File, Manage My Profile, and then you may already be logged in. If not, log in there. That way when we save things, it may be a little bit easier. Otherwise, we need to go find that Excel file, so make sure you were saving along there. We're going to do Microsoft Excel. You're going to find wherever I'm recording this, so I don't mess up the original, so I'll do that. And again, let it think for a little bit. If we're given the option to use the data interpreter, we're going to do it. All right, and so it just cleans up the data. You can actually review the results on an Excel file if you really want. But for us, it's just what data do we need? Well, since we already have all the data linked on the all data sheet, I'm just going to bring that over because what it's showing me here is like, hey, we have all these sheets in Excel. Which ones do you want to be able to visualize from? And there's no reason for me to try and go through and visualize the agenda. That's nuts. The general company information, that's only half the data. We could have linked it in there. So like you'll see if we tried to bring this general information over there, it will actually auto link sometimes. If not, you can tell it so we know that it has a unique identifier, and it'll show you like, oh, those are linked. Because we already have this general information in the all data sheet, I don't need this, so I'll get rid of it. There's no reason for me to try and bring over a pivot table because it's working on raw data, and so it's not going to know what to do with this. And so all we need is the all data tab, and we go to sheet 1. Best practice, go ahead and rename things. If we know what we're going to do, for us, we don't. And so we'll just go through and build a very simple visual. So again, this is just to ensure that you have access. We'll go super deep into this data next time, primarily in Tableau, to get you more experience. But for now, notice here on the left, if you haven't used Tableau, anything that's got the globe is a location. Anything that's ABC is categorical, so think about words. And then anything that has numbers is a number, right, a numeric variable. And so Um, you can pick whichever category you want. So let's show things by industry. So I'm going to drag it, drop it in the columns, and then I'll do a different one. So I did the 3-year growth rate. So maybe I'll do revenue. I'll drag it to rows. And then going through, it always starts with sum. You can see the pill, which is not what we want. We want it to be average. And if you hover over, you can see it doesn't add any units to anything. And so we want to do that. And I don't want to do that every single time. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this off and drop it. I'm going to find revenue. I'm going to do this drop down. And at the beginning of almost anything that I ever do, I automatically set 2 things. So I do default properties. I start with the number format. This is a currency. I'll do custom and then just do 0 decimals. If you're an international student or your computer wasn't made in the US, you may need to change your prefix to the $sign. Just you can do it here. Please do it. Do OK. And then again, revenue, drop down, default properties, and then we'll do aggregation and we'll do average, something like that. Then when we bring revenue over, right, one, it automatically displays things nice here. If you hover over, it kind of shows you those things. And then to order things, a lot easier. So across your secondary toolbar here, right, you should see these kind of cascading bar graphs. You can do something like that. If you want it to match the other type of graph that you made in Excel, you have this swap, something of that nature, which is a little bit nicer, a little bit easier. Again, I like to get rid of the grid line, so I will right click, format. A lot of things are hidden in Tableau, and then you'll go to these grid lines and you need to do sheet none, rows none, columns none. And sometimes it will appear that they go away, but if you don't do all 3, they'll show up when you publish them to Tableau Public. In terms of how we label things, if we want the same thing, and this is going to be a little bit clunkier, but here's this marks card where we can do a lot of things, where we can press these, what we call buttons. We can also just drag, again, drag from the left, not from the top, because we're doing something new. We will drag revenue onto, I think we want to label it that, and so it'll put that label on there. I like Tableau because it's easier to also like show things by color. And so I would honestly bring revenue onto color as you go through, and then it can see the various pieces here. And it's just darker means better, something of that nature. Or darker means higher, I guess is what I should say. I would title this something like, again, useful, so average revenue by industry. Do apply, do OK. There are a lot of things you can do here. You could mess around with this piece on like the scale of stuff. You could change the colors by clicking on the color tab here and edit it. Lots of different things that you kind of go through. So it's up to you and what your preferences is. The stock is kind of blue, so we'll use that. If you think this is kind of light, so Tableau uses its own kind of light gray. If that kind of bugs you, you can go right click in here and format. You get kind of these text options depending on where you're kind of at. So we're always going to be kind of careful here. So right click format. You can change it to maybe, I don't know, black. And it makes that maybe a little bit clearer. Same thing here where we could right click. Just thinking about making it a little bit easier and more viewable for the reader. And then there's no like auto select, so a lot of times you have to kind of click off to see it kind of apply. All right, so I'm gonna do rename something like revenue by industry, and we're gonna do a bunch of different types of these, so I'll just do something like a bar. All right, and so now we're gonna do 2 things. We're gonna save it, and we're gonna save it to your Tableau Public profile, and then we're gonna be done. So save, floppy disk icon, that's the tempting one, but to save locally, we're gonna first do file, and we're gonna do save or save as. And then wherever you wanna save this, if you're doing like tutorial folders, which I highly recommend you do, save it there. You'll have this Tableau repository that it installs when you install the program. but I'll do something like we're going to be always as descriptive as possible and make these feel like they're not an assignment. So I would do something like industry, let's see, I'll do revenue by industry for top 5,000 companies, something like that. So please not like assignment or anything of that nature. And so we'll just, I'll save it there because I know where to find it. And then to make sure you have it and to display your proficiency, and maybe you go back and fix this later, but you'll do File, and then you'll do Save to Tableau Public. So this is where it's very important, and a lot of people stress out at the very end, but you have to remember your email and password. The forgot password within this does not work very well, so if you forget it, sometimes you'll have to go to your Tableau Public profile and reset it, or try to log in. I'm going to save you my typing here. Once you enter that stuff and it remembers everything correctly, you'll go through, and later on we'll talk about how to make these look a little bit nicer, but then this will be on your profile. Notice that it will look a little bit different. We'll talk about formatting things later. I don't care about that. That's perfectly fine, but make sure when you go back to your profile, you see that on here. And sometimes the images don't work, which is fine, but it's just to make sure that it's on here. Because then when you already have your Tableau public profile link, when you confirm that it's here, it should go, so like now, I'll Control or Command click to go up. It takes me there and I can see it, so I can get this and grade it as we go through. Okay, all the various pieces. The only highlighting you should have left is this, and maybe if you want, make it a different color. Otherwise, complete these pieces. I put some extra resources for you at the very end. You're going to go through, update table, update entire table. You're going to save this. You can save it as a Word document, PDF, whatever kind of works for you. You'll then jump to whatever our learning management system is. You'll go to the assignments tab, and you'll just upload it to this technology access and motivation piece. If you run into questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Thank you all, and hope we're off to a good start here.